legendary producer Martin Birch passed away. I think it's time we pay our respects. Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name is Belgian Jasper, and today I just wanted to take some time to highlight some of the amazing work that Martin Birch as a producer and engineer brought us in the world of hard rock and heavy metal. Martin passed away yesterday at the age of 71. He was already retired for quite some time. He retired after producing the Fear of the Dark album by Iron Maiden. And although he's been retired for such a long time, it is impossible to understate how impactful he has been on the evolution of hard rock and heavy metal. To celebrate Martin's life, I'm gonna do not a quick 3 like I usually do, but a quick 5 of the most epic albums that he worked on. Why do I want to do a quick 5 instead of a quick 3? Well, it's just impossible to only pick 3 albums that Martin was involved with. Just to give you an understanding of how amazing his legacy really is, you know, here's a couple of albums that didn't even make my top 5. In 1969 there was Fleetwood Mac with Then Play On. In 1970 he worked on Deep Purple's In Rock.
If you've been bad, Lord, I bet you have, and you've not been here.
In 1972 he produced that band's most legendary live album and maybe one of the best live albums of all time, Made in Japan. And then in 1974, he was also the producer of the Burn album. In the meantime, in 1972, he had produced Wishbone as his absolute classic Argus. And in 1976 he produced Rainbow Rising. And that was followed in 1978 by Long Live Rock and Roll. In 1980, he produced Ready and Willing from Whitesnake.
So I can say to you, babe, I'll be a fool for your loving no more. A fool for your loving no more.
And a year later, he produced Black Sabbath's Mob Rules. And also in 1981, he produced the Blue Oyster Cult classic Fire of Unknown Origin.
Home in the valley, home in the city, home isn't pretty.
And then I'm not even talking about all his work with Iron Maiden, like in 1983, Peace of Mind. Or in 1986, the sci-fi epic of this band called Somewhere in Time.
So understand the wasted time, always searching for those wasted years.
It's clear that Martin Birch was involved with some of the most amazing albums in hard rock and metal history. And so to celebrate his legacy, I'm gonna zoom in on 5 albums that I just think are even more amazing than all these albums that I just mentioned. Because it would be unfair and impossible and people would just argue over and over and over again. I'm not even gonna try to choose which of these albums are my favorite. They're all timeless classics, so I'll just call them out in chronological order. Let's go back to Deep Purple, the band that made Martin Birch really big. In 1972, he was one of the people behind their amazing classic called Machine Head.
Hold tight, I'm on my way, star.
Highway Star is just one of the many timeless classics from that album. I mean, I'm pretty sure that every song on that album is now considered an absolute classic by the band. But if there's one song we have to highlight from the Machine Head album, it has to be Smoke on the Water. You know, Deep Purple got into some troubled times a few years later, and guitar virtuoso Ritchie Blackmore branched off on his own and founded Rainbow. And the debut album of this band, called Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, even though it wasn't really a solo album, but anyway, that has to be my second pick.
One day in the year of the fox came a time remembered well, when the strong young man of the rising sun.
You know, the first song that I chose, Temple of the King, is one of those, you know, underrated classics. But if there's one song that this album is remembered for, it has to be Man on the Silver Mountain.
Come down with fire, lift my spirit higher, someone screaming my name.
So that was the first album that Martin worked on where Ronnie James Dio would sing on, and there would be many more. I already highlighted a few, and there's another really good one coming. Another band to rise out of the ashes of Deep Purple in the late 70s was Whitesnake, the band around singer David Coverdale. And my third pick in this series is Love Hunter.
I love the blues, they tell my story. If you don't feel it, you can never understand. So many times.
Although Whitesnake is now mostly known for their hair metal, glam metal, late 80s era, in the late 70s, Whitesnake was really giving us this great bluesy hard rock that we, you know, weren't getting from Deep Purple anymore. Walking in the Shadows of the Blues is an amazing song, but obviously the title track, Love Hunter, is the song of this album.
I'm a love hunter, baby, sneaking up on you. I'm a love hunter.
So let's go back to Ronnie James Dio with the absolute classic Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath in 1980. At this point, you've lost count on how many timeless classics Martin Birch has actually worked on, but that Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath is just a different league altogether. Obviously, Neon Nights is an amazing song, but again, the title track is the song of the album. Alright, and then my fifth and final pick. In 1982, it was the second time that Martin Birch produced a full-length album by this band. This band was Iron Maiden, and this album was The Number of the Beast. This album, just like Deep Purple's Machine Head, is one of those albums where almost every song is a timeless classic. And sure, Gangland is never gonna be anyone's favorite, but just think about it. You've got Run to the Hills, Children of the Dam, Hallowed Be Thy Name, and obviously the title track, Number of the Beast. So this was my quick little tribute to Martin Birch. He was so influential for our beloved hard rock and heavy metal music genres. It's hard to imagine what some of our favorite bands would have sounded like without Martin there. So all that's left to say is my deepest condolences to Martin's family and loved ones. Thank you, Martin, for all the music that you've put out in this world. The music that you worked on will live forever and nobody will ever forget you. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.